fallacies. Boom. So I'm just going to go over a few, and for those of you who know it, don't worry, it's not going to be too boring. And for those of you who don't know it, this is your speed course on logical fallacies. And these are the ones that apply to debate the most. Everybody knows ad hominem. Ad hominem is an attack on the man. You even know that even if you didn't know your fallacies. You'd be like, hey, buddy, you're attacking me, not my case. You know, you have to attack the case. This is my favorite one. Part to whole and whole to part. And this applies to analogies and examples. Basically is this. Just because the immigration wall between India and Pakistan works doesn't mean the immigration wall between the US and Mexico works. When you apply one example to another, you're saying that you're saying, oh, the immigration wall in India worked, so the immigration wall in Mexico worked. Well, guess what? There's differing terrain. There's differing levels of populace. There's different, the India wall was created 35 years ago, so we're 35 plus years past that fact. There is difference in ethnicity, and there's a difference in resources. The India wall between India and Pakistan is a 20-foot tall ring of barbed wire with glass that goes down like 50 feet beneath it. Like, America can't do that. Like, we don't have the money. We're not going to do that. So there's differing financial, So the reason why it doesn't work is because you're applying something that worked part to something that would be whole. And you can't apply that. So, and then whole to part is the exact same thing, except switching. So if you're saying, oh, this little wall that India put up is going to work for the entire US-Mexican border, that's not possible. But then if you did the reverse, oh, the entire US-Mexican border doesn't work, so the entire India-Pakistan border won't work. That's not true because of all these different figures. So you have to think of, like, things that happened, historical examples sometimes aren't valid because they happened so long ago. There's a difference in era, a difference in time, a difference in mindset. So while some historical examples actually work, most of them can be torn down with a part-to-whole fallacy. Even if the historical example is true and you know it to be true, still bring up part-to-whole fallacy because it'll look good. You're like, Judge, look, that happened 45 years ago. That was in different financial times, different ethnic times, different social times. The reason why that doesn't apply is because of X, Y, Z. It looks really good. Yeah?
Do we say they're committing part-to-whole fallacy, or do we just point out why it is?
You can look really smart if you say that. You say, Judge, they're committing a really big fallacy known in the classical, logic community as part-to-whole. And that makes you look really good. Reducto ad Hitler. Reducto ad Hitler. Right, yeah. Right. And like, yeah.
Which, as we can tell, doesn't work.
Exactly, yeah. Extrapolation, that's a good one, especially for statistics and numbers. Reducto ad Hitler is basically reducing, it's Latin for reducing the argument to Hitler. And so that's basically anytime anyone brings up Hitler in an argument. You're like, a great example of this is Hitler. And you're like, yeah, like Stalin or Mao Zedong or Mussolini, exactly. You're like, of course, like Hitler applies to like every area of life. Like, sure, show us how it directly applies to your case. Because a lot of times they'll say, they're committing genocide, and we stopped Hitler, so why can't we stop genocide? And you're like, first of all, that was in different, you've got to prove your case is genocide. You've got to prove that Hitler, you just got to prove every single area of their case rather than reducing the argument to Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Mussolini. I don't even know how to spell his name. Not going to try. Also, ad misericordiam. Ad misericordiam is an appeal to pity. It's not an appeal to emotion. Appeals to emotion are fine. Using an emotional intro, telling the judge that killing babies is wrong. You would agree, killing babies is wrong. But ad misericordiam is an appeal to pity. They're directly appealing their case to the judge's sense of pity or empathy so that they can win. There was one case we hit called child soldiers, and it was basically sanctioning countries that had child soldiers. And so we ran ad misericordiam as one of our bigger arguments because they didn't support everything by evidence. One of my great and favorite quotes is, the plural of anecdote is not evidence. So they can get up there and say, great story, pitiful story, great story, pitiful story. you should vote affirmative because we've got a bunch of stories. You can say the plural of anecdote is not evidence because they're directly appealing to the judge's sense of pity. They need hard facts, hard numbers, hard evidence to back up their pity stories. If they have that to back up their pity stories, I won't run ad misericordiam. But if they're missing all of that and they just have stories, then you run ad misericordiam. Ad baculum. An appeal to force. It's basically a strongman tactic. We will make this go through. We will force this to go through. And this is directly linked to a TP argument called legislative entrenchment. And I'll explain that in a second. Entrenchment. Before we get to that. And this is kind of like a solvency argument. You can't prove that your plan will work. You can't strong-arm your way through your plan. You can't fiat your way through your plan. You don't know that people are going to comply unless you have hard numbers saying people will comply, or majority opinion, people saying we love your plan, we will comply. You can't fiat compliance with your plan. Legislative entrenchment is basically the idea that a bill will always stay in effect because basically, when you write a bill, you can't say, we write this bill and no future Congress can repeal this bill. Why? Why do you guys think that's true?
Times change.
Exactly. Times change. And so nobody can say, no Congress can say, no future Congress will repeal this bill. So that means any Congress could repeal any bill they wanted to, which means that after the affirmative team changes, if times change in 10 years, they're going to change their plan. Congress is going to repeal that bill. So a lot of times people will say, unknowing debaters will say, no future Congress can repeal our plan, or our plan will stay in effect forever. That's not true because of legislative entrenchment. That's a really good law theory that is kind of propagated in our courts today. So let's look at during the actual debate. But oh, hold on, we got one more. What were? Oh yes, I love these ones. Okay. Alternate causality. There's two more. Alternate causality. Take a guess at this.
The cause and effect is wrong where the cause is...
Right. They say whales are killed, so there's more meat put into the market, whale meat. Therefore, John's barbecue cooks more whale burgers. And you're like, okay, maybe John's barbecue does cook more whale burgers, but that's because John goes out and kills the whales himself. And that's alternate causality. They're saying, booyah, booyah, and you're saying, no, your plan isn't true because this is what happened. So if their plan was stop fed whale killing, then it doesn't solve the problem because John goes out on his own private skiff and kills whales.
I will add something to that. If you guys have been studying stock issues that week, and that argument ties directly back to the inherency point.
Yeah.
If the affirmative doesn't accurately tell you what is causing the problem, then we can assume that they're not going to be able to solve it. Like, for example, their harm is that whales are dying.
Yeah.
You claim that it's the federal government. You bring up
Right.
a stat that says actually whale killing is 98% private.
Right.
The government only kills 2%. That
Yeah.
wipes out everything they have to say.
Exactly. And then you go, you know what, you're not actually fixing the problem. So what you're doing won't do anything. Boom, shakalaka. And the judge is like, oh man, that's so true. So there's no need for their case. When you prove there's a different cause, you prove there's no need for their case. The last one is actually probably my favorite one. Correlation does not equal causation. This is great. This happens so much in debate. It really makes me peeved. And peeves are great pets to have, by the way. So you can, when you say you have a pet peeve, it's totally fine. All right. Correlation is not causation. Someone says, I go to the bank on Monday. Monday. And they also say, every Monday, it rains. Therefore, when I go to the bank, it rains. Would that be true? No. Why not?
Because rain is
Exactly. What really would be true was every 7 days there's a cold front that hits the city that that guy's living in, causing the clouds, the heat to rise, the cold to drop, and causing clouds to form, which means they'd rain on whatever city he's in. That's the truth. But people say because these two things are correlated, one causes the other. That's completely not true. You need to make them prove what causes this. They can't say the Federal Reserve prints money and I don't know, the Federal Reserve is losing money. Therefore, the Federal Reserve is losing money because they're printing money. That's not true. The Federal Reserve could be losing money because they're not funded enough by the government. Or they could be losing money because they're overpaying their employees. Or they could be losing money because they're fiscally irresponsible. Any number of things. Don't let them get away with saying these two things are buddy-buddy, therefore one caused the other. That's just not the way that it happens.
That again actually goes back to the tie between
Yes.
insolvency.
Oh, man.
Inherency argument, but it impacts directly back to not being able to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Stuff right there.
So true. Okay. Logical fallacies. So, bringing this all back to the beginning, knowing your logical fallacies beforehand helps you recognize them while you're in the round. So you're sitting there and you're like, gosh, there's something about that he said that just really irks me. Like something, oh man, he's appealing to the judge's pity. I remember from Thaddeus' lecture, he's using ad misericordiam. Booyah! You get up there, you have like 35 seconds of stuff to talk about, and it's so nice. So knowing your logical fallacies beforehand helps you win rounds. All right, during the actual debate, dun 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 dun. Sound effects? Yes, that would be awesome. Okay, do any of you know what net benefits are?
It's the sum of all of the benefits.
Right. Do you know where people use it in debate? I'll tell you. Criterion. When somebody presents a case, and we'll cover this more when we talk about case building, they present a criterion. They say, Judge, this is our criterion. This is the lens through which you should look at this round. We believe you should look at this lens, and this is the lens we provide. And if you look at this lens and we fulfill it at the end of the round, then we win. So if you weigh advantages versus disadvantages, and the AF team has more, then we win. If they had a criterion of human life, then at the end of the round, the judge would look at the end of the round as a whole and say, who upheld human life more, AF or NEG? Whoever held up human life more means that they win the round. Do you guys get that? Any questions? So you'll hear people say, and our criterion for today is national security. That means who upholds national security. Our criterion for the day, or for this round, Judge, is preservation of economic freedom. That means at the end of the round, whoever preserves economic freedom wins and should grab the judge's vote. So that's what a criterion is. Net benefits is like the most cliche, the most, like the most overused criterion ever.
That's what you throw in there when you don't have anything else.
Exactly. But get this, the hidden secret is that when an affirmative goes, we're going to use net benefits because we think that's a great way to view the round. And they're like, oh, we're being cool, we're using net benefits. It actually is an AF death toll. It's an AF death toll. And they just are like, oh, we're bringing up net benefits because we have like 75 advantages. And so we think we're going to win because you can't bring up that many disadvantages. First of all, love net benefits. Never argue with net benefits. When someone gets up there and goes net benefits, you get up there and you're like, oh, you are my new best friend. For a few reasons. Net benefits is just a fancy word for everything. Basically, anything that negative wants to be in the round now applies to the debate. Because they say it's good stuff versus bad stuff. And whichever wins in today's round should get the affirmative vote. Now, why is that good? Because if they had a criterion of human life, then only arguments that applied to human life would matter. If negative brought up an argument saying people are going to lose money, the judge would have to strike it from his flow because it doesn't have anything to do with human life.